Hello, you Midas Mighty. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and all the rest. Harry Litman of Talking Feds here with some thoughts about what happens next with this behemoth report from the January 6th committee. It goes over, obviously, the baton has passed. The baton, maybe the Mack truck, has passed to the Department of Justice. What does Jack Smith and the department do with it now? So first of all, there's been some suggestion, kind of debate on TV, that maybe they're sorry this has come to them and they wish it hadn't. I think that's wrong or maybe misunderstood. In a perfect world, they would get all this information and it wouldn't go to Trump or putative defendants, because that means that the defendants can skate around the puddle, as it's called, or just basically sculpt their testimony. If you ever indict anybody, they get the information then, but better later than sooner. However, this is designed, and it should have been designed, for public release. There's a tactical reason to do that anyway, because anything that the committee would have withheld when the new Republicans come into power, they would have had a field day with. Oh, how sinister. They didn't tell us this, that, and the other. So given that it needed to, and it should have gone to the public, which is really the most, they and history, as I see it, are the primary audience here. I think it's almost all to the good that DOJ has this information now. Some of it they might not have. And even if it's duplicative, I think the right watchword is, for a prosecutor, it was my watchword, is more information is good. Even if some of it is kind of helpful to the defense, and that means there's a constitutional obligation to turn it over. Even so, it gives them so much in that situation, when you're sitting down with a witness, to have two different statements, make sure to really get at what the truth is, or to really skewer them if they're hostile witnesses. That's all good. And we have a treasure trove of information here. So I think the right answer is they are happy, not unhappy, to have received it. It will put pressure on this. I wanted to make a point about timing before I even get into the specifics of what'll happen. It's going to give rise to a lot of expectations. Okay, we've waited 3 days, 6 days, 1 week. When are you going to bring these January 6 charges? The answer is no time soon. The answer, again, is no time soon. These are complicated cases, and by all appearances from the outside, there's a lot of really important groundwork they haven't laid. Now, Mar-a-Lago is a different point. That matters a lot. I think things will feel different. The impatience might ebb a bit if and when Mar-a-Lago is brought, the Georgia case is brought. But the January 6 cases, they are complicated. They have built-in defenses of the First Amendment and the like. Do not expect them to come soon. Be the sophisticated partisans who are eager to see it, but no, it's not coming anytime in the next week, 2 or 6, I would say. Maybe the summertime. Okay. What are they going to be doing now, though, to make these cases? Normally, what you would do is work your way up the ladder. In fact, at this point, you might even expect, in a pedestrian big case, that different possible defendants would be running to you to give information and to get a good deal. I don't think that's going to happen here. I don't think Mark Meadows is going to be running in, or even Eastman or Clark, or any of the sort of 6 to 10 people who could give meaningful cooperation toward Trump. For one, they may actually be thinking, I'll roll the dice, see what happens in the presidential election, and hope for a pardon. And for two, they know DOJ has a tough case on its hands. So for DOJ, the best for sure would be to get a cooperator. Although, speaking of timing, if you go to a Mark Meadows, actually, I'll return to him in a moment. If you go to a Jeff Clark and say, we're going to charge you, or you're going to cooperate now, or both, he might say, go ahead and charge me, knowing it's going to take, what, a year? Then he'll be in worse shape, but that's a long time. Will DOJ stay the course, and the like? Let me now go to my reserved asterisk, Mark Meadows. he is in this big report everywhere. He, one of the big sort of arresting observations to me was how the call that seemed so bad and sinister, and it was, to the Secretary of State in Georgia, Brad Raffensperger, there were like a couple hundred of similar contacts and outreaches to state officials or phony electors. There is such a wealth of material, and a big part of that is Mark Meadows. I think the hardest, well, not the hardest, in a normal case, I think the Department of Justice would say, is Meadows too guilty to give immunity to? You don't want to give it to someone who really has been a very big part of the crime and conspiracy. To me, Meadows is over that line. Although if you're worried about timing and you want to get things going quick, you might, in fact, try to move on him quickly, but it is a very tricky prospect. It would probably be the single most difficult judgment for Jack Smith and then Merrick Garland to make. The general principle, though, that without a cooperator, these cases are going to be hard to make, stands. It's possible to try to put it together just with the Cassidy Hutchinsons of the world. God knows she was a great witness. However, it's far from ideal. And as I've mentioned, there are other problems with the cases just inherently. Anyway, what should we be doing now? Watching grand jury practice very carefully. DOJ doesn't leak about it. When people go to the grand jury, they're allowed to tell the public. They often do, and we're going to be able to see where Jack Smith and the grand jury is going on this stuff, and from that gauge how far along they are now. But to end with, once again, underscoring this point, where are they now? Not that far along. You will not see USA versus Donald Trump on the January 6th cases very soon. Okay, those are the headlines I think that I wanted to give you about what happens next, with just one little asterisk, which is, I mentioned Mar-a-Lago. There is also out there the Fulton County case and Fani Willis. There's a lot of reason. That's a pretty tight case with this centerpiece that prosecutors love, an audio tape. And there's reason to think she's ready to pull the trigger, not just against Trump, but several other possible witnesses. The only thing about that one is, I think it might be first to the starting line, but last or never to the finish line, because there are a lot of gnarly legal issues. You can just stop and think about it for a moment, lawyer or not. Can any sort of local DA just indict a former president? Can somebody in Oklahoma, as soon as Biden finishes his term, bring charges? That is a sobering prospect, and the Supreme Court may well be weighing in on it. But whether or not they do, there'll be a lot of satellite litigation before that one will ever start. So I expect charges probably in the next few months, but that's not to say that it will give what everyone is so waiting with bated breath for, a conviction of Donald Trump or even other higher-ups. Okay, so there you have it, Meidas Mighty. Harry Litman here of Talking Feds. We've got our own YouTube now, so please check it out. And if the spirit moves you, like and subscribe there. Helps us quite a bit. But a lot is happening. A lot more is going to be happening. And the next time it does, I'll be here to give you my reaction to the Meidas Mighty gang in particular. Until then, talk to you later.
MeidasTouch is unapologetically pro-democracy, and look, we know you are too. So please make sure you check out our best-selling shirt and our best-selling gear, the unapologetically pro-democracy gear. And hey, while you're at it, make sure you check out my favorite shirt and one of our most famous designs, It Wasn't Rigged, You're Just a Loser, at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.